All right, folks, welcome to Retro Throwdown with a very special guest this week. My good pal here from the Old Man Record Club in Thunder Bay, Ontario, the one and only Dave Probie, wickedly even flowed Probizansky. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Yay.
How was that? I don't have any cheap applause or anything in the background.
That's okay.
But yeah, you know what we decided to do, me and Jex occasionally, is bring on a special guest, and they will throw it down with Jex, and we'll see what the outcome is. And this week, we're actually going with two heavy hitters from the supposed grunge era. That would be Pearl Jam with 10 and Stone Temple Pilots with Core. So, Jexter, I'm going to remove myself from the screen. I'm going to go sit in the lobby and enjoy you and Probie duke it out.
You get to just take it easy.
I will, and hope to see you at the end of the show. If not, folks, we'll see you in 2 weeks for the Canada Day special.
Right on. All right.
All right. Take it away, Probie. You're a guest in this house. You can go first.
Really happy to be invited on this week because these are two killer albums. And from the era that I really, really love to reflect on, and that's grown on me since then. So I thought I would present it today from two different perspectives. Me at that age, when I saw it for the first time, and then me now, appreciating it over the 30 years. Right?
Excellent. Yeah.
So we start with the first one, which, of course, Pearl Jam 10. This album and the Stone Temple Pilots album both have the Brendan O'Brien influence. So the recordings are similarly fresh, new, and I will get into what I think of the juxtaposition of both of them for how they sound for the time. But I think we start with Pearl Jam. This is their debut album. They, of course, came from kind of an amalgamation of what was left of Mother Love Bone and Eddie Vedder. I've been doing a lot of reading on Pearl Jam just out of my own personal interest. And I think one of the neatest facts to come out of this album was the original tracks, the original 5 tracks, I think it were sent to Eddie Vedder in San Diego on a tape cassette, just the recordings like that Stone Gossard and Mike McCready made, just the background recordings with no lyrics or anything. And Eddie sang over them and sent the tape back with his interpretation of what he thought it should sound like. And so songs that were titled one title became Alive and became Black. And I can't remember all the titles offhand, but it's a really interesting read if people want to look it up. And Eddie just sang over them, sang some lyrics, and the guys were blown away. And they said, "You got to come up here and sing for us." And then this album was a fruition of that event. So because most of the people they had entertained or had at rehearsals to replace Andy from Mother Love Bone, who had died, they all wanted to sound like Andy. But Eddie sounds like Eddie. So this is what resulted. So I don't know. You guys usually go song by song and give your feeling about it. Is that what you're?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what I usually do. Yeah, track by track.
All right, because I want to do that with Stone Temple Pilots for sure too. So anyway, so starting off, this is one of my favorite side ones ever in my life, but that might bias me a little bit. The song Once just rips this album open to me. Like, it's just such a deep and moving song. And his vocals on this are just, it was like, I'd never heard something like this at the time. Even though there were heavy metal singers in my past, I like all the metal. I came out of that metal / alternative wave. You know, I was into the Cult. I was into the Cure. I was into Scorpions and anything from the 80s, right? And then you're into the 90s. You still have all these influences. I was listening to 9 Inch Nails. So I had heavy music. But this voice on this song, I was like, this is fantastic. And Even Flow, the next song, it rips into a guitar that I still appreciate to this day. I have seen Pearl Jam in concert 17 times, 18 times, and they play Even Flow almost every time, and it's still fresh. And McCready still rips this solo. He makes it different all the time. It was a song about social consciousness. The lyrics are not exactly on the first glance. You don't know what the song's about sometimes. You get a feel for it, but when you deep dive into the lyrics or you look up stuff on the internet, you realize they had the social conscious right off the bat, right? And so I always like that song. A lot of people rip on it in concert. They go to a bathroom break because it's even flow. But somebody's at that concert for the first time in their life and they want to hear even flow. It's a good tune, right? My favorite track when I was growing up. So I was going to say, I'm going to talk about Now and Then. Then, when it was 1992, the first time I heard Alive, and I have to admit, because there's no internet, you got to remember, you didn't hear music unless your friends brought it to you, or somebody said, "Hey, listen to this album." You didn't get to go stream it. You either had to buy it or someone had to have it, right? Or you had to steal it off somebody's CD. So Alive, the first time I ever heard this song, I can remember, like anything, like where you were in certain events in your life. For me, it's Alive. It was April 11th, 1992, Saturday Night Live. Pearl Jam rips into Alive. It's about midnight. I was standing in front of the TV going, look at these guys. Look at this band. Like, what are they? This is awesome. It blew me away. It took me away. It took me to a whole different place in music. I was like, this is now my band. One song, one performance, I was hooked. And so I'm very biased about this album because I ran out and bought this album, right? And then I listened to this album for just like weeks on end. This is all I listened to. And you got to remember, Nirvana was out around this time, and Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden. But this album suddenly took me over. And it was that performance on Saturday Night Live. So that's me then. Me now, still love this album. Still a deep album for me. Alive is still a track that I treasure. Love seeing it live. Love hearing it. Love hearing all the different versions of it, because Pearl Jam is one of those groups that puts out 900 live versions of it online. You can listen to it from all kinds of places. So this album became stronger and stronger as I got older. Songs like Why Go, the next song, live became a whole different experience. So originally listening to it back then, great song, great tempo, great ending. You feel the power in the song. Now, because I've seen it live, I've heard it live so many times, it's so powerful. It's just a great concert grabber. When they play it in concert, people go crazy. Like anything off 10, but that one's especially a good concert. Wake up and go. Black is by far one of my favorite ballads ever. And it started again on that cassette tape. He just started singing some of these dark lyrics over the song that they had titled some kind of E something, or I have the cassette. I can pull it out later. Anyways, the actual song became so deep and almost seemed so personal. I think that's, I was a young kid. I think so 92, I was I was only 21. So the lyrics seemed dark and mysterious and painful, and relationship related and all of that. And now later in life, after living through all kinds of crises, things in your families and stuff, you listen to Black and it's just still hits. It hits differently because I'm older, but it's still, when lyrics can transcend that long in your life, I think that's a pretty good indication that's a keeper, that song. So yeah, Black has always been a pretty special song to me. Jeremy, one of their first music videos, they didn't put out a lot of videos. I don't know if you know this about Pearl Jam. They really weren't about making videos. They didn't even like making videos. I think if you read some of the mythos of Pearl Jam, part of it is their lack of music videos, lack of production, lack of promoting themselves. They just like to play live. But Jeremy had a video. It was a scary video. It was quite a statement video. And the song still kind of holds up, right? It's got a lot of, stuff about family abuse and things like that in it. And I think it's quite a powerful song. It was never my favorite song on this album, though. Everyone's like, "Oh, Jeremy, big hit and everything." That wasn't the one for me, So side 2 actually has probably my favorite song, which we'll get to. But it's interesting how Jeremy got all the press, but I was always like, well, what about side 2, man? So we'll flip over the album. Oceans, I think Eddie's a surfer, right? So his whole some of his songs on other albums also transcend this idea about the peace of being out there and being in the ocean, and he's got a juxtaposition in this song with other aspects of his life. So I really like that. I used to skip it a lot though, because I really like Porch. So I don't But so now when I talk about then and I talk about now, so I would skip Oceans all the time. So about 10, 15 years ago, Oceans was a rediscovered track for me because I started listening to the whole thing on vinyl. I'm like, wow, I really should have listened to this song more when I was young, right? It's got some good lyrics. And so same thing happened to me. So I listen to Porch. I love Porch, you know, just the lyrics of Porch. It's a tough song. It's deadly. They slow it down in concert. It was originally just punched me and I kept listening to it over and over. I loved it. You know, it wasn't a release, just it hit me the right way. And it would transition into Garden, and Garden is such an evil song, man. I know the lyrics don't seem evil, but that tone of the music in Garden is evil. Just it brings me into something evil. I love it. And then I think they kick my ass because they go from Garden down into Deep, and I still don't know how to interpret Deep. Deep seems so, I don't know, like it's scary. That song is scary in a way. This just when you really listen to it, he sinks himself deep. Like, oh, like I don't know if he's on the brink of something. Is this some guy who's got bad thoughts in his head? Is this, you know, there's this woman hurting in it? Like, there's all kinds of stuff in that song. It's a very, very powerful song. And I've always thought that 3 transition, Porch, Garden, Deep, was awesome. And then it brought me to my favorite song, which is Release. Release. It's the one everybody wants them to open with in the concert. It's the one that most Pearl Jam fans are like, oh my God, like they're playing Release. Everyone's like, it's like a religious experience at the show. So then, back then, Release wasn't my favorite song on the album. Alive was, because it was everything to me. But as I grew and listened to this album more and more as I got older, Release became my favorite song because it closes the album. It completes it for me. It makes me feel like everything's, you know, come together. So, as you can probably tell from everything I've said about this album, and maybe I might have a few copies of it, the rare basketball picture disc of it.
Never seen that.
I know, not too many people have seen that one. It's pretty neat, eh?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And then I have a exclusive 1 of 2,000 copy, and this is a Coke bottle. So it's Coke bottle clear.
Oh yeah, I love that color.
So that one, and then I recently off my buddy Scott traded me some stuff for what I wanted. I've wanted this forever. This is the Pearl Jam 10 box set.
Wow, that's a brick. That looks heavy.
It is, and it's got so much extra, and it does come with a copy of that cassette that Eddie had.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I say, the background on this album, the production on this album, the sound on this album, the way it changed music for me personally, and the way it still does today. It still slaps, as the kids say it. It still gives me the energy when I listen to it. If you want me to give it a score, there's only one score I can give it because to me it's perfection. So it's a 10.
I had a feeling. What? That's the name of the album, right? So
yeah, 10 for 10, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Let me write that down. All right. Well, you see, this is why I like it. This is why I let you go first, because you did all the heavy lifting. I don't have to add much because I agree with a lot of what you said. Now, here's the thing. See, I'm the young guy. I'm a little younger than you. I'm way younger than deKe. No, just kidding. So in 91, when this came out, see, I turned 6 in 91, turned 7 in 92.
Yeah.
So these albums, I was still young, but I was still exposed to them because I have 2 older sisters, 5 years older and 8 years older. So my sister Natasha, who's 5 years older than me, she was all over the grunge alternative scene.
Absolutely.
She was buying the cassettes. She was watching much music. So I wasn't like into the music so much, but I was exposed to it. So it's still like very familiar to me. Like at least I can say I was there when this was brand new. You know, I was
exactly.
I was exposed to it. So before I get into the track, I'm not gonna go deep as you did because you did a wonderful job analyzing every track. But we'll say before I go into it, it does get lumped into the grunge category. But I always thought like this is more than just, it doesn't. I've said before, this is the ungrungiest of grunge albums. When I did 2 years ago, I was on Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and we did an episode on our top 20 albums of 91. And that's what I said back then. I said, guys, this gets lumped into the grunge scene. It's the ungrungiest of grunge. Like if you put it next to Nirvana, they don't sound alike at all. It's a totally different thing. For me, it's just a solid rock album. And but they get lumped, they have that style, the long greasy hair, the flannel shirts, the Doc Martin boots, so that's a grunge band, but they're more than just that to me. So let's get into the tracks here a little bit. Starts with Once, like you said, wonderful opener, Once upon a time.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a classic misheard lyrics story from this. For the longest time, I thought Eddie was saying once or maybe twice. And it wasn't until later I was listening a little more carefully. I was like, oh, I've had it wrong this whole time. It's Once Upon a Time. That makes a lot more sense. But yeah,
yeah, like Yellow Ledbetter. No one knows the lyrics of that. That's an outtake from 10, and they play it on the end of their concerts. I think Eddie sings it. I think he sings it differently every time on purpose. It's the most misunderstood lyric song they have. So I don't blame you.
There you go. Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead. Get it. I feel better then. But yeah, great opener, sets the tone of the album beautifully. And next you have Even Flow and Alive. Probably their biggest hits, the biggest Pearl Jam songs, still get heavy radio play to this day, and that's no surprise. They're fantastic. What else was I going to say? Oh, well, to speak of, okay, you spoke of SNL, their appearance on SNL. I don't remember. I think it was in that episode. I don't know if you remember Adam Sandler, his character of Opera Man.
Yeah.
Do you remember that skit? Yeah, yeah, with the long hair. Well, he's sitting at Weekend Update, and the music starts and he goes into Even Flow. Adam Sandler doing his thing. And it's like, Eddie Vedder looks even better in person. Oh. Anyway, so, because of that, I always think of Adam Sandler when I hear Even Flow. I still enjoy the song very much, but I can't get that Opera Man.
No, that's true. That's funny.
Right. But for those who haven't seen it, it might be on YouTube. But check it out. It's a great skit. And as for Alive, to go back to the Tim's Vinyl Confessions episode I did 2 years ago, I never realized this, but I was saying, yeah, this is a great solid rock album. And then Matt Phillips, one of the co-hosts, said, well, that's no surprise because all of the Pearl Jam guys are classic rock fans, specifically Kiss. And then Tim Derling, the host of Tim's Vinyl Confessions, says, yeah, they were fans of Kiss. If you listen to the opening riff of Alive, and then go listen to Love Theme from Kiss from the 1974 debut. And I could hear it in my mind, like, that's true. It's like, if you listen to those, just the first 10 seconds back to back of both songs, definite inspiration. Nice. Definite inspiration. And I dig that because I like Kiss. I'm a Kiss fan. So when Tim said that, I was like, oh, that's amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much I'm not going to go deep. I'm not going to take a deep dive because, like I said, you did a wonderful job of that. But all I'm going to say is that the album is very consistent all the way through, very consistent. You've got your faster, heavier songs. You've got your slower tempo songs, and the sequencing is just perfect. The close, the 9-minute epic that is Release Me. Like you said, that's your favorite song. I don't blame you at all. It's a wonderful song. Closes the album beautifully. And what's nice, listening to it on CD, like when I first picked it up, well, I only have it on CD, but I listened to it in the car. And when a CD ends, it starts over automatically. And this album is a perfect loop because that last minute of Release Me, those notes, is the opening of Once. Yeah. So you can listen to that album over and over and over, and it just blends so beautifully into itself. It's I thought that was genius. I thought that was a brilliant move from whoever got the idea, whether it was the band or the producer, I don't know, but it is brilliant. So yeah, I love that. So very well produced. Speaking of production, it's very well produced. And the album cover is cool. Like I said, I only have it on CD, but it folds out because on CD I didn't take my copy out, but you only see the hands, but then when you fold it out, you see the full picture. Wait, let me figure out my left and my right down here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for me. I'm gonna, I don't have the sentimental value like you have, Probie, but I'm still gonna give it a pretty good score, 7.5 for me.
Awesome. All right, so we're doing the next one, the Stone Temple Pilots. So here's my prop.
There you go.
On Music on Vinyl, so it's a really nice, clean Music on Vinyl. They do a really good recording. So I was happy to pick this up when they finally re-released it. Finding a grunge album from the 90s is like holy grails, right? Like if you tried to find Core, an original one, you'd be in the $400-$500, right?
Yeah.
I was happy to pick this up. I'm going to juxtapose it between then and now. So then, I don't know if you were pretty young, so you don't remember probably all the flack this album took. Okay. So this album, we'll go through it. I'm going to go through it track by track because I love this album. But back then, I wasn't given the opportunity right away to love this album, and I'll tell you a few stories about it. Number one, it had descriptions like, oh my God, this band is like somebody threw Pearl Jam into Alice in Chains and it came out the other end, right? And the worst of both bands. Like they would describe stuff like that, right? Or
Wow.
they'd say they're trying too hard to be grunge, they're not grunge, right? Or they're imitation grunge. And I don't know why they got so much shit that they got, but they did. And so a lot of magazines at the time either rated them awesome. Like I think even one Rolling Stones within 1 month, part of it rated as the worst and part of it rated as the best, right? So they had very mixed reviews. Anyway, I think Scott Weiland kind of ate that up and took it personally because their follow-up album to this, which you guys should do one day too, like it's awesome. They're both awesome albums, but really went nuts on the next album to get their sound right. And, and made sure they had radio friendly and radio unfriendly hits. So I really like that too. So anyways, we'll get right into it here. Also, they're from San Diego. So they got shit from being from San Diego. But it's funny because Eddie Vedder was of Chicago living in San Diego and came up to Seattle. He was an OG Seattle.
Yeah.
Whatever.
People were just looking for stuff to
they were nitpicking. This is not Creed, okay? This is Stone Temple Pilots or Mighty Joe Young originally, and then they changed their name because I guess some blues artist had the name or something, right? So anyways, the first song, like this is one of the most kick-ass side ones of the 90s that there is to me. Like at the time, didn't know about it as well as I know now, but Dead and Bloated, what a kick-ass song to come on. Like it is just, he's got that deep voice, that scary voice. The lyrics are awesome. He's put me into a different zone. Like where Alice in Chains have this tone all the time. I liked how Scott Weiland would change it up, but this is definitely an Alice in Chains type song. So this type of music was influencing them all. They were taking their Black Sabbaths and their Iron Maidens and stuff, and they were putting it into their own music, and they're trying to make it themselves. So Dead and Bloated, definitely, he starts a theme on this album. This album has an entire theme to it. I don't know if it's influence from serial killers and social injustice and all kinds of stuff, because there's lots of themes, but they seem to connect. So Dead and Bloated was a winner right off the bat for me. I was like, this song is awesome, right? Sex Type Thing, didn't get it at the time. I was like, Jesus Christ, what a change up of a song. It's not like his vocals change, everything changes, right? But that was then. Now, love it. Love when a group changes it up. Let's make it fresh. Let's keep this album going, right? Love the guitar on Sex Type Thing though. Love the tempo, and I like the way it transitioned into Wicked Garden. Wicked Garden, well, at the time was my favorite song on this album. I really, really like that song. Deep, evil. Maybe there's something about Gardens, because the other album, Gardens, one of my favorite tunes too, because it's dark and evil. Something about that. Anyways, I kind of like the homage. So the two brothers, the guitarist there, I think Dean's the guitarist. Yeah, Dean's the guitarist. He does this No Memory right after Wicked Garden, right? And you remember you guys talked about it on Ozzy's album there, like D, like the instrumental, the lead in. So this is like his lead into Sin, right?
Yeah.
And it just works so perfectly into that song. And Sin is, to me, the hidden gem on this entire album. I missed it when I was a kid, 21. I missed it. I like, as you're listening to the radio stuff, you're listening to what's released, you're listening to what your friend's listening to. I didn't give the deep dive to Sin that I did later in life. Man, that's like my favorite song on this album. 2 reasons. One, he sounds a little bit like Jim Morrison, got a backing band from Black Sabbath and decided to record some 70s music. That's what Sin sounds to me. And his voice just changes and gets that deepness, right? I'm like, yes, Scott, this is your voice, right? And so, yeah, I think that track made it for me. Then you flip it over, and I guess Red Hot Chili Peppers took over the album, because Naked Sunday is a complete change. Like, it's like, what the fuck? What happened here? And so I can see why people said they were a bit of an imitation band. They were trying to find their sound. So back then, I recognized that, well, are they trying to copy the Chili Peppers? Because the next song, Creep, sounds like Nirvana. Like if you listen to Creep and the way it goes down, it sounds like Nirvana. It sounds like they're doing a Nirvana song. Like, granted, not as edgy as Nirvana, not as screamo, but it's there. It's definitely there. And then they go back into what I call Stone Temple Pilots. Plush is a Stone Temple Pilots song. It's evil. There's serial killer shit. He's talking about smelling a dead body. That to me, that is Stone Temple Pilots, because Scott's mind, right? And of course, Wet My Bed. Yeah, there's Scott Whalen. He's fucked up. Look, can I swear on this? I can even.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
Wet My Bed. Might as well just explain that Scott Whalen's like not here on here, right? Like, I don't think they should have included it. It's too out there. It doesn't belong on here, because Where the River Goes is a beautiful long song at the end that's got great lyrics, great tone, great progression through the whole thing. I find it a bit ruined. Oh, sorry, I missed Cracker Man. I find it's a bit ruined by Wet My Bed and Cracker Man. Cracker Man's okay, but Cracker Man is kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like a redo of Sex type thing. Like it's got the same tempo, same kind of, I don't know if you feel that way when you listen to it, but later in life, I appreciated Where the River Goes much more. It was closing tracks for me back then. You want to just go back and listen to the radio hits or whatever, right? And now I go straight for that song on that side. I really still do like Plush. I missed Piece of Pie because I never really liked that song, so it was never really my track, right?
Right.
But back to Creep. I think Creep was the first time that they got a lot of flack for being imitators, and so I'll go back to that point. So if I rate this album then versus now, right? Then I missed a lot of the good complexities of this, Scott Whalen's voice, his potential and everything, because I thought he was imitating some of my favorite bands, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, and Pearl Jam, right? Because the comparison was always there with them. Alice in Chains, like the backing type of music they're playing was very Alice in Chains to me back then. And because I had already picked my 3 grunge bands, can't have a fourth, so I would have only given it a 5 back then. But now I would give it a much higher score than 5, but I cannot give it as high a score as Pearl Jam. 2 reasons. I'm going to give this an 8 because nostalgia-wise, I do really love it. It's got, like I said, one of my favorite first sides of any of the albums from the 90s. But Piece of Pie and Wet My Bed don't need to be on this album. And I'm just gonna stick with that. And I think they could have made a perfect album if they'd because I've heard the outtakes, which isn't fair to the rating thing, and some of the outtakes needed to be on this album. There's a couple of them. If you get the deluxe on the streaming, you listen to some of the ones that didn't make it. There were so many other choices they could have put on here. So I'll leave it at that. So anyways, an 8 for an album that I appreciate now a lot more than I did when I was that age.
It's still a very nice high score. That's perfect. So once again, you did the heavy lifting here, so I'm gonna go real quick. No deep analysis from me, but I love what you're doing about the then and the now comparisons, all your feelings. It's really cool to hear. For me, I was pretty new. Like I said, I heard some songs back in the day because of my sister, but sitting down, really listening to it, I think it was maybe 8 years ago, so it's fairly recent for me. But yeah, like you said, Dead and Bloated starts on the song, I am smelling like the road. It's like, oh, whoa, okay.
I know.
I'm right into it.
On my birthday deathbed, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're dying on your birthday. Anyway,
he's so messed up. It's great,
Right. Oh yeah, the lyrically, this album is something else. I will say that much. Sex type thing is a rough one to listen to lyrically.
Right. And I know that is it. I don't want to say what they used to think it was about because he's since defended it that it's not that. But I kind of thought so back then.
I mean, everybody did. It's hard not to, right? And that's what I was reading up on Wikipedia. Scott Weiland, he's claimed that it deals with the humanity's attitude toward women, treating them as objects, right?
Yeah.
But it's because of that whole, that's a sensitive topic, right? It's hard to listen to musically, like you said, the guitar, great song.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a hard one to sit through because of the content.
Yeah.
Creep is a favorite of mine, and it's I love that you said it sounds like Nirvana. It's because that hits so close to home, because when it would come on, when I had it on the car, and my wife would be with me, she goes, "Oh, that's Nirvana." I go, "No, it's Stone Temple Pilots," and it would happen every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No." I'm like, we've been through this. It's not Nirvana. So the fact that you're saying it sounds like Nirvana, I'm like, okay, well, see, at least my wife was onto something. She's not the only one.
Yeah.
But I love it. Very great mellow song. Half the man I used to be. It's I think that's a beautiful song in here. Piece of Pie could easily be mistaken. Again, I love that you said, the imitation stuff, because I was listening to it. I'm like, this could have been mistaken for Soundgarden. It sounds exactly like a Soundgarden song. The only reason it's not is because Chris Cornell had a voice like no other, so you could tell a Soundgarden song.
I forgot to say that is the group that Piece of Pie sounded like, because I had it all in my head. I should have wrote it down, because as I was saying before, when you flip it over, you're getting all different bands, because Naked Sunday is definitely Red Hot Chili Peppers to me, and I forgot to say that the Piece of Pie was like Soundgarden. You're right.
Right. So I'm glad we agree.
Yeah.
And what else I want to say about that one? So it sounds like Soundgarden, but Scott Weiland has a great voice. Like I said, you could tell it's not Soundgarden because he doesn't sound anything like Chris Cornell. But Scott Weiland has a style of his own. Like you said, he switches it up from song to song, and that's what's kind of fun.
Yeah, later albums he found his kind of way of doing this, and it all got better. And then you realize, and then I've seen him in concert a couple of times, and man, it just comes together. But you don't realize it on this first album. You're like, is he imitating or not?
Yeah, well, that's one thing that people need to keep in mind, is it is their first album, right? And they were trying to find their sound, like you said. So, people are going to be harsh, right? But sometimes you just got to keep in mind, hey, they're just starting out. Give them a chance. Plush, that's still a radio staple to this day. Hear it on the radio all the time. And if Piece of Pie sounds like a Soundgarden song, then this sounds like a Pearl Jam song. And I think you even said it, right?
It's like I just kind of skipped through it because I couldn't listen to that song for the longest time back then, because I just it's like Pearl Jam with weird lyrics. When the dogs begin to smell her, Eddie would never write that. And then people are like,
no.
Pearl Jam. No, it's not. That's not Pearl Jam. So but now I like it because Stone Temple Pilots is a thing, right? It's a feeling. It's a different experience. It's not Pearl Jam. And Pearl Jam did a little bit on verses, right? They got that flack of not being grunge. Go listen to verses when they do like the heavy shit on there, right? They're like, no, we're grunge. Like, here comes Blood, here comes Go, like here comes Animal, right? Like they're kicking it because they didn't want to be labeled as not grunge. I know what they were doing, And,
they're not crazy. They're not crazy.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, Wet My Bed. Okay. You talked about that one. I'm so glad we're very much on the same page here, Probie. That's my least favorite thing on here. I'm not even going to call it a song. It's not a song. It's my least favorite thing. And reading up on it, it was actually the very first thing they recorded during the sessions was this, and it was just an improv. Scott Weiland and then the bassist Robert DeLeo, just kind of messing around, and then that's what came out of it. But it shouldn't have ended up on the album, if you ask me. That's my own personal opinion. Like, it's where's my only cigarette? The bathtub, the bathroom. He's just saying words. He's just saying, it's nonsensical. Yeah, and I do not like it. I do not like it one bit. So that's
it never grew on me. It never grew on me. Like think, like even like the Doors. I know there's some Doors stuff in here too. If you're going to go classic rock, he's got a lot of Jim Morrison influence, and Jim Morrison had spoken word albums and spoken word parts of his songs. And I think he was trying to emulate that kind of feel, and it didn't work. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
No, it's just too weird. Like lyrically, it's just, I don't know. It's not a fan. I could do without it. But what else here? Oh, yes. Okay. So before I conclude, I want to say I finally clued in to what the album art means. I used to think that it's just a naked woman holding a ball, like she's playing volleyball in the nude or something.
Oh yeah.
And then because that's what sells albums, right? Naked women. Naked women playing volleyball, of course. But as it turns out, that's not a ball that she's holding. It's an apple. It's a big apple, as in the core.
Oh, she's taking a bite of an apple. Oh, yeah.
Well, and not just that. The woman represents Eve in the Garden of Eden. You can see the tree behind her, and she's holding an apple. And then the name of the album, Core.
Yeah, that's the tree. I see. Yes. Okay, that's cool.
Right. I didn't know that till a few days ago.
Okay, so confession, and I may be wrong about this, but Alice in Chains' Dirt album with the woman in the red dirt, right? Yeah. I always thought that this was kind of like that, like they're just using that kind of imagery.
Right.
This makes sense now. This makes sense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I taught something to the viewers watching, because I had no idea. On Wikipedia, they just say that the core represents the apple from the Garden of Eden, but then I looked at it, and then that's when I figured out, wait, the woman is nude, so that means that's Eve. And then I was like, my mind was blown.
Because like all those albums from that era, like that, the Alice in Chains album or Jane's Addiction with the naked girls, like that was a theme, right? And then the distorted lens look, which it has, right? It's almost like you're looking through a lens. They had that on Rearview Mirror for Pearl Jam. Like that was the technique on an album cover is there. I think one of the Chili Peppers albums are all squashed into a thing too, right? So it's like it was popular, right?
Yeah.
And one of Soundgarden's albums are all kind of distorted on the front cover too. Super Unknown.
Super Unknown.
Yeah. So it was a technique. So I just dismissed it. I'm glad you said that. That's cool. Now, okay, more respect for it, maybe.
Right. Well, same. I just thought it was naked woman with a ball, supposed to be art, I guess. But now it just clicked. I went,
maybe 8.5. I might have to. That.
Yeah.
8.5. I like that album cover. That's really. Yeah, that's better than I thought. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Good. Put you up 8.5. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Overall, a good listen. Besides a few songs, like we said, like "Wet My Bed." But overall, for a first album, I think it's a good attempt. It's well produced. Certainly one of the better sounding albums to come out of that grunge scene, I would say. So, but since we're putting it up against Pearl Jam, it's a hard competition. So I gave it a 6.
Yeah, I figured if you're giving Pearl Jam in the 7s, you're going to give this one a 6.
Yeah. All right, and here's the man. Here comes the man now.
All right, let's tally up these scores here. Give me a second, folks.
I got him here if you need it.
I got a few things to say. This was fantastic. Probie, you hit a grand slam, man. First time out, bro. And you know what, Jex? I think Jex will be fine. We're gonna bring you back, man. We're gonna bring you back for when we do Soundgarden or anything. Yeah, you're gonna come back, man.
I'm good with any era, you know that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Actually, maybe I'll just fire myself from the show. Why not?
No, I got to be able to watch and not worry about it too,
And so I just have a few. It was fun just hanging out in the lobby and listening to you guys. Jex, I really liked how you broke down the album cover of Core. Like Probie had no idea.
Yeah.
You're right. Everybody likes a naked woman holding a volleyball, but it's an apple core, Boom.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. And the other thing, which I really, and Probie, I know our good pal from the Old Man Record Club, Scotty, is going to love it. When Jex said that Alive sounds a little bit like the start of the love theme from Kiss, I could see Probie. He kind of had a little bit of puke in his mouth. We don't have to go there. I could just see him twitch there, but he went.
But in all fairness, Matt Cameron, who is their drummer now, had a Kiss cover band.
Right.
Okay? That's what he was in before. And I got to see them in the Vic Theater, just Pearl Jam in the Vic Theater. It was an intimate, like 500-person show. And they played Black Diamond and he sang it. And it was awesome. And I told deKe, I do have favorite Kiss songs. And so now I'm going to go back. I have that Kiss album. I'm going to go back and listen to that. I want to hear the Alive in that song.
Well, there we go. Yeah. So, Jexter, you know this part of the show, what you're supposed to do. Are we going with Stone Jexter Pilots at 14.5. Drummel. Winner, chicken dinner. of this special episode with my good pal Dave. Probie Jam was 17.5. Boom.
Nice.
Well, that was fantastic, man. That was so good. Probie, you totally did your homework, man. You really set the bar high here, and basically
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed looking up stuff for both albums that I didn't know about too. So
well, you did your homework, man, and that's why you're always welcome back here, buddy. And plus, you know what? It gives me 2 weeks off.
there you go.
And I always, you know, it's the young guy that's got to do the work down there. You know, the young guy. And Jax, thanks for carrying the show.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it was a lot of fun. Probie, come back anytime.
Thanks, guys.
And stay on, Probie. I'm just going to end the recording. And but anyways, folks, join us Canada Day, right, Jexter?
Yep. First.
Yeah, on July 1st, we're going to have the special Canada Day episode of April Wine, The Nature of the Beast versus Triumph with Allied Forces.
Oh,
And, tune us in. Or
I know what I like on that one.
There we go. Actually, like I said, I fired myself. Maybe I'll bring Probie back for that one. I got another 2 weeks off. But anyways, folks, thanks for joining us for this special episode with my good pal, Dave Probizanski. And thanks for tuning in and watching. Feel free to give us a follow. And yada, yada, yada. You folks know the drill. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.